Light a campfire and everyone's a storyteller. Join us for some thought-provoking and beyond fireside chats.
Welcome to Leave Our World a Better Place. My name is Kasia, and today I'm speaking to Debra, Fox and Chris Browne from Fox Browne Creative. Chris and Debra are the award-winning team responsible for designing and hospitality training at some of the world's top luxury properties, including many of &Beyond's most loved lodges and camps. Chris and Debra, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Kasia. Lovely to be here today.
Chris and Debra, you travel extensively to all kinds of exotic destinations around the world for your job. But where is home for you? Where are you actually based?
Well, at the moment, and we've been living in Johannesburg, and we've had discussions on where to go. Should we stay in Joburg? Will it be Cape Town? Will it be London? So for now, it's Johannesburg, and we love it here. But our other home is on any Airbus or Boeing going somewhere.
But definitely, I think what started is Africa is home for us, wherever that's going to be.
You've built up a successful career in design and hospitality over the years. What is it that drew you to the field in the first place?
Well, I suppose my background's hospitality, and I studied hotel management and worked in lodges and hospitality for many, many years. And I'm really passionate about the impact that hospitality and the way we design and where we design has on the developing world. And that's been a driving force since the first day I picked up a plate and served a glass of wine right through to setting up my own business, I think. For Chris, maybe it's slightly different entry.
Yeah, it was always there. Design was always a thing that lurked in us or in me. And initially wanted to be an architect or a landscape designer. So I think landed pretty close on interior design, loving it. That can be with the hospitality slant.
But you can imagine, Kasia, you can imagine the pillow talk, because we're also married and have been since we first started working together. So you can imagine the conversations we have. He's a closet hotelier, and I'm a closet designer. Things can get interesting in our home sometimes, I must say.
I can just imagine.
You've both worked extensively for &Beyond, and you're very close to the company. Can you share a little bit more about your history with &Beyond, and also tell us a little bit about how Fox Browne Creative was born?
Gosh, how long have we got? You said that's a long history there. Yeah, I started in 1994. I came from Cape Town, having worked at the Bay Hotel and various other hotels in the Cape. And my first job, I was flown up for an interview at Ingala Private Game Reserve, and they said, just want to up the standards here a little bit. It was right in the early, 94. Hospitality wasn't really a big thing in the lodges. It was more, I think the ranger's girlfriend used to open a can of beans and kind of open it and cook it on the fire. And they were kind of redefine hospitality. Yeah, so off I went thinking, I'm just going to have this lovely, off with my morning suit from being in hospitality and hotel schools and stuff, to arrive in the bush to this crazy, wonderful, warm welcome. I thought I'd be there for about 6 months just to help out, set the kitchen up, and really I started as F&B. And the next thing I know, it was 20 years later and I was still working with &Beyond. So that's how I started.
Yeah, so my begin was in 1996, coincidentally also at Ingala. And actually, I had been forgotten. I was employed as the new in-house interior designer. And really my job was to come and make sure that the lampshades were straight and the cushions were nicely plumped. And I got to the Joburg office in those days in Weirder Valley, and the team that I had to report to had forgotten that I was actually starting that day. So there was I was put on a plane to Ingala, not expecting. I thought I was just going to have an office job. So that very first day, I was on a plane to Skukuza and arrived at Ingala and walked into the old, what is now the spa and gym, which was the old conference room, into their exco, which was the entire executive of &Beyond and that particular lodge. It was the most intimidating day of my life. And sitting in the middle of all of those people was Debra. And they looked at this young guy. I think I had a lot of long hair back in those days.
We still tease him that he missed the flight. How he likes that.
Yeah. That was my first day on the job. And we started moving furniture almost instantly. And here we are nearly nearly 30 years later, still moving furniture.
We met over the sofa in the sitting room, and I think less than 6 months ago, both of us were back at Ingala, still moving a sofa. The same sofa was being moved around. But we had if I can be honest, Cassie, we had the most amazing privilege working in and beyond all those years ago. It taught us so much. And I mean, I was privileged enough. I lived in Zanzibar. I opened Ngorongoro Crater Lodge. I opened Makalali. I ran the whole of Tanzania. I lived in Botswana, and privileged to work. We worked in India. We went to South America in 2008. I don't know if you know, but Ambion was already looking to develop this in South America then. And, then the global economy crashed, and so things changed. So we had some amazing trips there, scouting properties. We really have been very, very lucky to do that. And from that, I think about 10 years ago, well, actually 10 years was our 10-year anniversary last year as Fox Browne Creative. We left Beyond about 10 years ago and decided to set up our own business. We wanted to make a difference. We wanted to see if we could make a difference further afield, and we could see that other businesses needed us too. And me and Chris, and we kind of sat down one day and we were like, okay, what are we going to do? And we looked at each other and we said, okay, let's try this. I've got these skills, you've got those skills. And 10 years later, we have got a team of, 15 people. And we're lucky enough that we still work with Beyond. We consult to you guys, and we feel like we're still part of the family. It's been a journey. It's been wonderful, actually.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly time has flown. It's just gone in a flash of an eye.
We started obviously specifically around hospitality and design, and interior design mostly. But we work with Nick Pluman Architects a lot on the Beyond properties, amazing architect. But we found that on some of our other projects, we weren't really getting to work with such great architects always. And so about 3 years ago, we added architecture to our business, being able to offer the full portfolio. And I think that for us is now, so we're going through a new stage of our business again, which is exciting.
Yeah, but I guess the Fox DNA that we have really has its roots in lodge design. I think the lodge industry has really shaped us, who we are and how we approach everything we do. And it's interesting to see the lodge industry in this post-COVID period, we're about to be the post-COVID period, how that's going to influence hospitality globally, because it's already so well positioned and so far ahead of the game. And for our exposure to that, we're so grateful, and I think we have a lot of insights.
But I mean, it'll be interesting to see where it goes, because Beyond was so ahead of its time. Like 20 years ago, when we first set out with everybody, it was so ahead of its time already, and we see still now, 25 years later, people only now are starting to try and adopt some of the cultural ethos that Beyond had 25, 30 years ago, that you've always had, and trying to kind of figure out how to do it, how to bring all those things to play. So we'll see how they manage post-COVID, but you can see them trying to catch up even now.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about how you think that design in the hospitality industry is going to have to adapt and change post-COVID-19? Do you feel that the safari industry is perhaps better able to adapt than the mainstream hospitality industry?
Well, I think I wouldn't like to be a cruise ship owner or a big resort hotel owner in this period. But I think the lodge industry and the small boutique luxury travel industry, I think, is well placed. I mean, they've got a great infrastructure and designed around spacing and privacy, and by the time the guest gets to a lodge or to one of these remote hotels, they're not too fussed about.
We don't think they will be.
They're not afraid.
They're going to be so sanitized by the time they reach you. Yeah. They're just going to want a huge, big, open-armed hug when they get there. But I think there'll be some other design influences. I think people are craving comfort, security. I think people will want soft fabrics, softer things around, and really just a sense of cocooning that will happen, which I think Beyond does so well already for our guests. You operate in dangerous, far-flung places, and so we've always known that guests are coming there looking for safety and comfort and to really feel safe. So I think as a whole, we'll see more and more of that in the design industry. I think design plays a role in shaping the future we want to see.
Sure.
So, it's going to be up to us how we create that world and what we do for people.
In terms of hospitality training, do you think that there are going to be challenges there? You spoke a little while ago about people getting to an and beyond lodge and wanting that warm hug, which is something that the company is so well known for. Do you think that is going to be a challenge in terms of managing that? It's become so ingrained in a company like and beyond that kind of greeting happens. Is it going to be a challenge managing that and making sure that guests still feel comfortable in a post-COVID world?
I think it's going to be difficult initially, particularly, Africa is about a warm welcome, and hospitality is in our blood. No matter where you go, there's an open armed welcome, and I think it will be very difficult initially. And some of the things we've been looking at is like hand on heart greetings and simple things like that to make people feel comfortable now. But I think that once guests, personally, without being disrespectful of where everyone's feelings are on this, I think that hospitality is about making people feel welcome, and we can do that without touching. But the human need is to connect, and I think that it won't be long before we're back to making people feel welcome. I think what we will have to do in training is make sure that we are conscious of how guests will be feeling, and we're going to have to probably ask more. Are you okay with me coming this close? Are you okay with me shaking hands or whatever that may be? I don't think we can assume that everybody's going to be in the same place. There are going to be some challenges in terms of serving food and serving wine, etc. But I think if all of us follow the rules of normal hygiene and practice, then I think our guests will be safe. And we're certainly not going to be flinging food across the table so we don't come near them. So that's for sure. We will see more people, buffets are a thing of the past. We will see more plated food, and I think we'll see more comfort food. And I also think that people will want to know how the kitchens are cleaned and what hygiene practices you have in place. So that'll also be a big focus on training initially.
Going back to your work with and beyond, on the design side specifically, when you work with and beyond lodges, is it your goal to make every property consistent, or do you try to give each a different feel and character? How do you manage the fact that they're all part of the same brand and yet all different properties?
Well, I think it's essential to create a unique identity in each lodge and give the guests a different feeling, that unmistakable and beyond thread that links the experiences together. I think in this commoditized world we live in, with big brands and guests who are exposed to everything so easily via the internet, I think special, intimate, unique design and spaces are becoming more and more important. And we will work harder to tap into local design elements, the local industry, regional craft, to give a true sense of place, because I think that's real luxury, is to buy an authentic experience.
And I think it's, as Chris said, it's dictated by the environment that we're in, the designs. But really where we start is when we're in the space, we say, what does the guest want to experience here? And try and give each of those experiences a different feeling, but tie it together in the way that and beyond delivers. So for us, because we're privileged enough to know the and beyond way after all these years, there is a golden thread that runs through all the properties, both in design with the layers and the soulfulness and the sense of humor that comes through in a lot of the designs, but also in the way that guests are taken care of when they are with and beyond. That's how we tie them together, keep them different, but bring those similarities in.
It's also getting harder because, as you know, this part of the industry is quite competitive, and I think it's a challenge for us to really and truly understand what guests need and deliver what's appropriate. Not get too tempted with over-servicing and over-providing things. Do we need to have 65 plunge pools or whatever it is that we're trying to deliver the next Insta moment? I think the lodge teams and lodge designers and people who are involved in this industry need to really ask that question. What's appropriate, what's necessary, and what's truly authentic and what's truly magical?
Is it designed for Instagram or is it designed for guests?
Yeah, exactly. So, challenge ahead, and we're being very mindful of that.
There is a lot of external pressure these days, and I can imagine it must be very difficult for you to balance what truly makes a difference and what is there just for show.
Exactly. It really is a balancing act because I think guests do want that wow moment and they do want those bragging rights. Maybe post COVID that's going to change a bit too. By the way, I think that is definitely people are going to be a little more sensitive about that sort of thing. But people do want that moment. So how do you create that moment but still make it appropriate for the space, still comfortable, and still give the guests just what they need without being ostentatious or over the top?
Yes. And the flip side of that coin is to, as Debra says, is to give them what they need and make them feel spoiled and not go the opposite direction of sort of greenwashing, because that's also, I think, something to watch out for. You can go too far the other way and it becomes, again, it loses all its realness.
Yeah, so it's about being authentic in the design and the delivery. Yeah.
Chris and Debra, with your extensive experience with And Beyond, and that being where your careers began, do you find that this has influenced the way that you design, not only for And Beyond, but for your other clients as well?
Yes, I think it's had a huge influence on how we design. I mean, designing for the guest really was something we learned back in the early 90s in those days, CC Africa. You know,
those circles in the forest, we used to call them. We used to go and sit on the site and really feel what the space felt like and walk around and talk through the experience and put ourselves in the shoes of the guest. That's where it started, and I think it influences how we design now.
That through the eyes of the guest, which comes through on all the And Beyond training, has its roots back then, and it's influenced all of us.
Yeah.
And we do apply that to most of the jobs we do, but there are some operators out there who interestingly think differently. And that's, there's a lot of wisdom in And Beyond, and to have And Beyond as a client because of that is really amazing.
What's been interesting though, because we bump into, the world is full of ex-And Beyonders, and we bump into them in the industry wherever we go. Every lodge that we end up designing or working in, whichever client we've got, there's somebody who knows us or has worked with us in And Beyond before. So it's amazing to see how that, both the culture of design, because I think we were leaders in the design aspects of when we launched in And Beyond, and I think it's interesting to see how that's influenced the industry and how your operating culture has influenced the industry. And those manuals that we used to do and the styling guides that we used to do for And Beyond, we see them, they pop up in places. Often they're like, we've got these operating practices. I was like, interesting. I wrote those 20 years ago.
Yes, those look familiar.
Yeah, but it's great. What an amazing impact I've had, as a business and for us personally. I think we feel proud that we've had that impact in places.
I'm going to ask you a question that I get asked all the time, and that's probably not a very fair question to ask. Do you have a favorite And Beyond lodge? And if you do, why?
Oh, that is a hard one.
Are we allowed to say more than one? It's a terrible question because they really all have a special place somewhere in our hearts for some reason or for something.
But I think that obviously for Deb and I, the Crater Lodge is a special place. It's really where we cut our teeth properly in industry. It was
pioneering
groundbreaking project under incredibly difficult circumstances. And so we're professionally incredibly proud of that lodge. I mean, that it's still standing 25 years later is a complete miracle. But it's a magical place. I think it's delivered for the company over and over.
And we met there, and we fell in love there, and we got married there. So it's got a kind of, I think it's got a special. Yeah.
But I mean, we also love Kitchwa. Kitchwa was also just such a magical place. The Mara, something about the light,
softness,
the people.
And then of course Sandibi, because we had such fun designing that. That was like a breakthrough design, another breakthrough design moment for us. You have those moments in your career, and that was one of them as well. Although different operating circumstances, different challenges, but it has from a design point of view, it challenged us, which was good.
And Sossusvlei.
Yeah, and now of course Sossusvlei. And the desert has something.
Oh God, and Nemba.
I'll just choose them all. Oh yes, Nemba too.
When you talk about your favorite lodges, Quite a few of them have been through refurbishments and through a couple of different looks and feels during their lifetime, or even had extensive rebuilds done since they were first built. On an emotional level, how do you feel when you see a favorite lodge getting a brand new look? Is it exciting, or is there a little bit of regret when you see some of your favorite elements being replaced? What is that emotional process like?
No, actually, for me personally, I love that process. I think change is good, and it's exciting, it's dynamic, it keeps life interesting. I don't think it's a good thing to hold on to the past too much.
But you're very clever, and you always manage to sneak in a little bit of the history of the original lodge somehow without us even knowing.
Yeah, I think that's to give the guest a sense of continuity and bring some depth to the experience. That it's not just, hey, look at this amazing design statement. That there's a story and there's a history. And I think you can show that off in subtle ways that guests really do appreciate, and it gives it a sense of gravitas.
Yeah. So, for example, at Sandibi, when we took down the old guest area, which had the most beautiful hardwood columns in the guest area, and we didn't want to lose them, so we sliced them and repurposed them into the vanities in every room. So now most guests know that, but for us, it gave a sense of continuity.
And also, because we know the story of how those bloody tree trunks came from Zambia all those years ago, the money, the heartache, to get them there. We thought, no ways we're going to chuck these up now.
Yeah. Too much blood, sweat, and tears into that.
Yeah. So if you look carefully, I would say almost in every and beyond lodge, except the ones that have either burnt down and even those you've managed to salvage like a little odd piece. If you look carefully in that beyond lodges, you'll find a little something always somewhere, maybe in the most obscure place, of a reference to the past of the property. But he's the most excited when they have to be redone. It's like up to our story, yeah.
It must be quite exciting for guests to come back time and time again to find these little reminders or almost kind of insider jokes about the history of the lodge. It must be quite a special feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. We want to make them.
This industry it's about stories. That's all we want to tell. Stories, and for guests to continue to tell them.
Talking about stories, you must have had some absolutely incredible travel experiences while working in your profession. Have you got any favorite ones that you might be willing to share with us?
Well, I must say it's a good question to ask after this COVID period where we've been homebound and had been stationary. We've never been stationary for this long period of time, ever.
It's the longest we've been.
Prior to that, we were on the road for 260 days a year.
Yeah, last year we had less than 100 days in our own beds at home.
So it's kind of feels like a distant memory, all those years of travel. But gee, we've been lucky. We've been everywhere. And I think that for me, I don't know about for Debra, but for me, India was a real turning point, both working there professionally, setting up the and beyond lodges when we had them, and from a design point of view, it's just the most phenomenal country in terms of that.
We still go back there. Chris was particularly involved in setting up the original and beyond lodges in Madhya Pradesh, and it took about 6 years traveling, I don't know, every 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever, going, sourcing, finding. And we still go back to some of those suppliers now, walk through those massive warehouses, and you think you've seen it all. You kind of think, okay, we're now going to be so jaded, we're going to look at this stuff. There's still one more beautiful thing after another, with soul and patina and handmade. We sat in the marble crafts, handicrafts person, carving a marble basin with a lion's head on for us by hand a couple of months ago. It was extraordinary to see the talent and to see the workmanship.
But it also makes you realize what you've got in Africa and what we have particularly in Southern Africa, in terms of what's available in the design industry and the production and the furnishings and the talent that's here, because it is astounding. Yeah. And it also makes you realize that you have to be true to where you are when you design that. You can't deliver like a looky-likey Indian kind of vibe. In Africa, it feels out of place. It's not appropriate. Yeah. So it makes you focus your energy again on what's appropriate and what's real and what's right for here.
And I must say, I think one of the most challenging places we have had to work, and we're working on a massive project there at the moment, is in London, is in the UK. Yes, I mean, you would think, and this is no disrespect to our client or to the place that we are, but you would think that in a first world country, it would be so much easier and more organized, and I don't know, but it is so litigious and so health and safety overregulated.
Yes.
We can't get people to carry the TV up the stairs when we're doing an installation there. Or, they're not certified, and then it takes 7 days to get a stamp to allow them to carry the TV.
That's not to say that the rules and regulations are a bad thing. Just
But it's crazy, in Africa, we have there's a can-do attitude in Africa. When we travel in Africa, it's like, no problem, we'll fix it. Oh, you haven't got the tire, let's make one, or it's just a different mindset. So, and it'll be interesting, again, post-COVID, how that mindset changes, because, we're back at work for the first time, and people are like following all the rules and a little bit nervous, So it'll be interesting to see if we still have that attitude as we go forward.
With all the amazing artifacts that you see and all the research that you do for your design, particularly in view of what you just said, Debra, about seeing so many craftsmen producing truly exquisite artifacts, are you ever tempted to buy and bring back souvenirs and incorporate them into your own home? Do you have any favorite pieces from your travels?
Oh my God, I wish that Chris would bring me home souvenirs from all the places we travel. I'm not allowed to buy.
yeah. If we were allowed to buy things, we would be on those television shows called hoarders. We're kind of quite choosy when we see stuff. We don't buy bric-a-brac or cheap souvenirs. Yeah.
But I have to say, we have got some, when I look at our home, it's always a case of the cobbler goes last shot. I mean, we will never have our home photographed because it's just not a designer kind of home. But we have got some most beautiful pieces, sentimental pieces to us. I got them when I was living in Tanzania, and I was working at client's camp, and we'd spent years trying to sort out a lease there. And I got to know the community there quite well. And my gift when I left Tanzania was this amazing giraffe bone spear that the Maasai use to actually hold open the lion's mouth when they get attacked in the field. And it's made of a giraffe femur, and it's buttered, and it's rubbed with cow fat and butter. It's when I look at that, it makes me. I just go straight back to sitting in that client's village, and so we've got little pieces like that that we're just not going to let go.
They're just completely authentic.
Yeah, like mine is the most amazing, giant, huge crocodile skull that we picked up in the Rufiji River.
Yeah.
It's totally illegal. I know we're not allowed to do stuff, but it was just lying there. It was pretty old.
It's massive.
No, it's a giant.
It's a giant.
In fact,
must have been
I had to pack it in two different suitcases, the top part of the drawer in one and the bottom half of the other. And it was, thank goodness, in the days before 9/11, so nothing was being scanned properly.
They lost the bag. Oh,
yes.
They lost the bag, and then we were worried we were going to get arrested. And the crocodile, I promise we don't normally steal stuff from them.
I never did it again.
I can just imagine a customs agent opening up that bag and getting the fright of his life.
Oh my God, that was so fun.
Yeah.
If it did get stopped, we were just going to say the flowers.
Yeah.
Chris and Debra, thank you so much for your time. It's been amazing chatting to you, and we look forward to having you back with us soon.
Thanks, Cassia, and lovely chatting to you too.
Yeah, thank you very, very much.
Thank you for listening to And Beyond Fireside Chats. Don't forget to subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode. If you have any comments or feedback, or would like to suggest a topic you'd like to hear us talk about, drop us an email at firesidechats@andbeyond.com. We'd love to hear from you.